if our system could just give us that little bit of practical exposure before they finish their graduation or their post graduation, we would be unstoppable.
Correct.
Because we have theories and theories and theories. When the market is opened, when there is a supply that outweighs demand by 10 times,
The price will
the price will drop.
Stop! Check out the link below and get up to a 50% guaranteed scholarship. Now!
Again, like the audience is 18 to 29 years old.
Okay.
Most of them, being part of that generation, I know most of us are stupid. So we
Say
have-
that. I think, when I look at the younger generation, when I go for campus interviews and stuff like that, I find them to be much more intelligent. They can do stuff which I could not do when I was 22.
But then there's also like the technical divide, right?
Yeah.
Like now we have all these fancy tools and everything.
Yeah.
That wasn't really available, right?
When I remember I was talking to one of my new young recruits. She just joined us last week.
Mm.
She is a graduate in law.
Mm.
And when I asked her, I just want to test her. I'm a lawyer, so I just said, okay, what is a IPC section 302?
Mm.
She said, sir, I had an open book exam. I don't need to memorize.
Ah.
During our days, we had to memorize everything.
Yeah.
So I told her when I wrote my IPC, I knew more than 300 sections by heart.
Mm.
I said, you should be crazy to do that.
Yeah. It doesn't really serve a purpose, right? Like I don't know, like I'm not a lawyer, but like the law courses that I took in university and everything, it didn't make sense to like rot learn
Yeah,
some of
it-
it, because these things are like, most of them, like at least to my understanding, is that some of them are precedent based, right?
Yeah.
Like they would use case laws instead of
Exactly.
like actual statutes, and even the statutes are open to be amended.
Yeah, and they change all the time.
Mm.
Amendments come in all the time. And the simple fact is that nobody's going to wake you up in the middle of the night and say, okay, I have a case, come now. So it's okay.
Yeah.
You always have time to prepare.
Correct.
And this was a big shock to me because I did all this learning by heart here.
Mm.
And when I went off for my master's, I was at the University of Essex.
Mm.
And all the books are open during the exams. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, why? I said, okay, are you going to go rush into a courtroom? No, you always have the time to prepare.
Correct.
Now I'm good that I'm happy to know that in India they started the same thing.
Yeah. Well, even like I did my schooling like an Indian syllabus schooling, and it was a massive shock when I went into university. I did it in Murdoch University over here. The curriculum's all Australian, and to like transition from that Indian syllabus to the Australian curriculum was a complete shock, because everybody, they're talking about referencing, writing essays, this, that. Back in school, all I know was to rot learn like the textbook and write it in the exam, and they
Yeah.
give you per point. This
Yeah.
thing. I had a teacher who asked me to draw in the exam paper to make it look pretty, so that the examiner will give. Come to think of it, seems extremely.
Yeah, and when I did my labor law, that's
Mm.
in the fourth year of my LLB,
Mm.
my answer sheet was on 142 pages.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now if you ask me to write like that, I cannot.
Yeah.
But our system is so rigorous.
Mm.
But the good part is when I went to UK, it was a piece of cake for me.
Yeah.
When all my classmates were struggling, I was the only Indian in the classroom. I was quite happy to do whatever they wanted me to do.
That was the case I had like in university as well. Like once I went into university, they have like so many different method. Like in India, like they have like one method, right? Like you memorize everything, write the exam at the end of the year. 1 year's content then goes in one exam.
Yeah.
Here you have like so many opportunities. You get like an assignment, couple
Yeah.
of assignments, a midterm, a final exam, like so many opportunities. So it felt like there is so much leeway to mess up.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like you get like.
Yeah, the other thing, your whole year's performance is measured in 3 hours. And in India, I'm not a CA, but I've heard my friends tell me that they make it so hard. So the number of CAs every year is very limited.
That is the same thing. So
Yeah.
it feels like they come backwards, right?
Yeah.
Like they figure out how many do we pass
Pass,
this time,
and then they fix the percentage.
it's not doing anybody any favor, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a unnecessarily absurd process.
True. And some people, okay, maybe if they hail from poor financial backgrounds or their family come in, they don't have years and years to spend on this, so they quit and go to something else.
Yeah. And that is the type of people we technically need
Hmm.
in civil services.
True.
We need, and we are losing all that people. Like somebody who has a lot of
Yeah.
money and who has a lot of time and effort could always
They can wait, they can write, they can go through years of preparation.
no, they'll go, and that to India, right? Like the preparation is a separate industry,
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
preparation industry. I've recently been to India. There's like a full street with just education providers. This tuition, that tuition, this tuition, that tuition.
In Delhi, especially, the number of schools which prepare you for civil service is humongous. It's like numbers in thousands.
Wow.
Depending on your budget, you can go from a normal bench and desk to full
AC rooms.
AC room where you're taught by former IAS officers.
Ah.
They prep you for the interview. They even videotape you and play it back to you and all that. But it costs lakhs of rupees. I was told that I need to take science. I was quite happy to take humanities. But then my family was like, no, you need to have an understanding of science at least till 12th. At that time, it was pre-degree in Kerala. So, okay, I said, okay. On one condition, that I will not write entrances for engineering or medicine. Then my family was like, okay, if you don't want it, don't. And because in my mind, I was quite sure that I want to take up law. So I studied science till pre-degree, and then I stopped. I moved into law.
This is like I remember, like I took some PCB, physics, chemistry, bio with psychology. 11th grade, I took it up. I spent like a couple of days in the class. I was like, no. I moved into commerce immediately.
Yeah, we should be doing things which help us to enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, when I was in law, I was enjoying my lectures. It made sense to me.
Yeah.
And they say law is a jealous mistress. Unless you give it full attention, it will not come to you. And I enjoyed it. And even today, I can quote Indian Constitution because I'm in love with that. But I had classmates who came into law because their fathers were successful lawyers.
Yeah, that we
Yeah.
It's just like that Indian mentality of like education is like how many number of letters are there after your.
True. And we are under pressure to finish all of it in one go. When I went for my masters, I was the youngest in my class. Everybody had finished their bachelor's, gone off to practice law for 10 years, 12 years, and they'd come back. Whereas I was fresh out of the university, and immediately.
That's how the trajectory is, right? Like once you're finished with bachelor's, what's next for masters?
Immediately.
Yeah. Even in India, right? Like whatever bachelor's you do, immediately they'll go get an MBA, and then only they will even think about entering the workforce.
When I interview, especially from Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Telangana for new candidates, these boys know the theory very well, but come into the field, half of them don't want to last through probation. When they see the actual pressure of a manager's job, they cannot take it because they don't have the context.
Correct.
They know theories very well. Whereas, I find boys who are from the Middle Eastern countries, they might not be able to write a perfect essay on management theories, but put them in a field, they know how to handle people, how to handle the workforce, how to handle your client.
Yeah.
That's what a company is looking for.
The people to think quickly.
Exactly, on the feet.
Yeah.
Whereas our boys will immediately, what I feel is, this is something I see quite a lot. They pick up the phone and call their boss. I have a problem. What should I do? I keep telling them, do something. Take a decision.
Yeah.
Let it be wrong. Let there be a problem. I am there. I am behind you. You have a line manager. He has a boss. And then it comes to me. So we will sort it out. But take a call. Don't be a postman. Don't take a problem and bring it to your boss's table.
Yeah.
Because then you will never learn. You will always depend on somebody else to tell you what to do.
No, not just that. Like it depends on what type of industry it is. Like so, for example, my dad's in IT, right? Like if there's an IT outage, they can't wait to get that full line of hierarchical approval. You kind of have to fix things right?
Immediately.
Yeah. So that I see a lot of people in IT. They spend most of their time in like help desk and couple of these low level positions.
Yeah.
Until they are
experience
enough to be in a place where they can take decision. But whereas like if we take from people who studied in Middle East or people who studied elsewhere or people who born raised up elsewhere, they tend to get there a lot quicker purely for the fact that they're ready to take some risks. Right.
True.
Very true. It's an unfortunate circumstance, I would say.
Theoretically we are very good. If our system could just give us that little bit of practical exposure before they finish their graduation or their post-graduation, we would be unstoppable.
Correct.
Because we have theories and theories and theories. As a lawyer, when I was when I was doing my law degree, the first time we see the inside of a courtroom is in the final year.
Huh.
After 4 years, on your final year, when you're completing your fifth year, that last 3 months, you see 1 week of courtroom. That's nothing.
So do you have like the moot courts and all these
Moot
things?
courts are very different. That's all theory.
Okay.
Again, you are given a fact sheet.
Okay.
You know this guy has done this. You
Hmm.
know this is what is the applicable section, and you just
Okay, so you basically have all facts at hand.
all facts at hand.
Hmm.
Whereas in courtroom, 90% of the time is spent on proving who has done what.
Yeah, correct.
So all of that is already here. So
Hmm.
you are just discussing or arguing points of law.
Hmm.
It doesn't actually help you in a courtroom.
Correct.
Okay,
It's a simulation of
it's
sorts,
a simulation,
but nothing.
exactly.
But that's outside. Right? Like, I've seen like some of these cases. My cousin, okay, he's in Chennai. He was studying and he was doing mechatronics engineering. Okay, he still has. He's not still fluent. Like he can use a computer. He's pretty good at it. He's very tech savvy.
Yeah.
Everybody has phones now, but that fluency is not there, right? Like you can see that fluency with basic Microsoft Office products.
Yeah.
Right? How do you make a presentation? How to use Word? How to use Excel? That fluency of tech is just not
Yeah,
encouraged at all.
because we don't use it. Our kids don't use it.
Yeah.
They start using PowerPoint when they get a job and when their boss starts asking them to make presentations. Okay, now we see some changes. They have to do assignments and presentations and all that, but not as much as the West.
Correct.
And
And
you
my
know,
brother in like school, like he's in like 9th grade, 8th grade,
Yeah.
right? He's doing like presentations and everything. He has more presentations to do, this, that.
Yeah.
But like compared to what is being taught in colleges in India, it's like complete.
and fluency of language. When you are in an interview, even though you might know all the answers, unless you are able to present it, articulate it in a confident way.
It's all useless.
Yeah, I was recruiting engineers.
Mm.
I wanted some electrical engineers, some civil engineers, and all that.
Mm.
These boys pass out with 80%, 82%. They are all having B Tech.
Mm.
But ask them basic questions and they cannot communicate.
Mm.
They know the answer. I can see it.
Mm.
I tell them, okay, calm down. Tell me in Tamil. Tell me in Telugu. Tell me in Malayalam. They can.
Mm.
But just conversing in English, because they don't use the language.
Yeah.
Okay, I had French as my second language in school, in college. If you ask me to converse in French, I cannot.
Yeah.
I might understand what the other person is saying, but I cannot talk back. It's like how people learn Sanskrit or Arabic in India. Theoretically, they know it. But
Yeah.
can
That's
you-
the case with me, right? Like I know how to read Arabic, I know how to write Arabic,
Yeah.
I can pick up Arabic, like when they're saying, but I can't fluently speak Arabic,
True.
right? Like it's just we are not taught to speak Arabic. We were
True.
taught to read, recite, and
and just keep it there.
keep it there, memorize and keep
Yeah,
it there.
keep it
right?
there.
That's it. Like we don't understand the language, the linguistics of it. It's just there. I know it. Done. Check in the box. Sort
Tick
of
in the box. So here, conversing in English is a basic thing, because if they ever want to go anywhere else outside the home state,
Yeah,
they would need that.
English is like
English is
yeah.
mandatory. These boys, this is a sad thing. When I brought them here, I put them with a bunch of other nationalities so that they would be forced to speak in English. They're very happy to stay in that bubble.
Yeah, I've seen that. Like many places I worked in, the Malayalis have like a bubble.
Exactly.
The Hindi speaking people will have a bubble. The Arabs will have a bubble. Like
Yeah.
the Arabic speaking, like the Lebanese, all these people will have a bubble.
True.
Everybody tends to stay within that bubble, right?
Yeah. Nobody wants to mingle.
Yeah.
So in our company, I've made a policy that in all our company provided accommodations, no nationalities are allowed to stay together. So if it's a room, there will be one Indian, one Filipino, one Bangladeshi, one, let's say, Sri Lankan. It's a mixture all the time. And that helps.
That when you're speaking of accommodations, right? Like a common thing that I see in Dubai is like how clustered. Like my grandfather was here. Like he was working in municipality back in 1972.
Wow.
Right, so he was in municipality accommodation. Like each like room has like 8-9 people in, like all in bunk beds. Is that still the case? Like, do labor still?
Well, I'll tell you, it's changed a lot. Now, UAE is a signatory to ILO. So labor rights are protected.
ILO is
International Labour Organization.
Okay.
It's a UN body. So all the international standards are brought in by the relevant authorities. MOHRE has stipulated guidelines on what is the space requirement for a single person.
Okay.
So everybody gets 3.33 square meters of space.
How big is that? Like just for
Like
context?
around 35 square feet.
Okay.
That's a decent space
Mm.
for a bed.
Mm.
So if there are 100 people,
Mm.
it is 3.33 into 100.
Correct.
So it's not like in a studio apartment you can squeeze in 20 people, 30 people. It doesn't
Okay.
exist anymore.
Okay.
There are ratios on number of beds is to number of washrooms.
Mm.
There have to be recreation rooms, dining facilities. So a labor camp, especially I have seen this in Abu Dhabi and Dubai,
Mm.
is very, very strictly regulated.
Okay.
MOHRE goes in for inspections.
Mm.
Violations carry huge penalties. But if you look at the Northern Emirates, still in the industrial areas, you will find these old dilapidated camps where they cram in people. But now I was talking to one of my friends in Ras Al Khaimah. He said very soon these same regulations are going to apply there. So the government has informed all these large entrepreneurs that they need to provide this kind of amenities. But if you look at come to Abu Dhabi, the workers' village, that's a special area where they all stay. That is a very highly regulated area. In the staff accommodation of my company, they have a football ground, they have basketball ground courts, they have snooker. So it's all there. It's the entire accommodation has all these facilities, and they can book it. They can go play. There's a mess. They have a laundry. All of this is there. But it's just that earlier that willingness was not there to spend on it. Now the government is insisting, and more companies are switching towards staff
Yeah,
welfare.
it's become a regulation. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's a
But it's not like some of the documentaries you might see saying that, okay, this is hell on earth. No, that doesn't exist anymore.
okay. No, because that's like the common, like when you like search up Dubai or
Yeah.
this thing, like that hell on earth scenario is what is being portrayed.
You know,
I mean, to
it-
some degree, it is like I would say like
it was there. I would say,
Yeah.
I moved to UAE in 2006.
Mm.
At that time, when I went to Sonapur for the first time and all, I could see it. When I went to Ajman for the first time, I could see some camp, but now it's all gone.
Mm.
Now, right now, we are refurbishing one of our labor camps in Dubai.
Mm.
We are spending close to 2.6 million
Mm.
just to make sure that everything is catered for, everything is proper. They have in that camp of 75,000 square feet, they have more than 10,000 square feet of rec space,
Mm.
only recreational space. They have a majlis, they have multiple TVs, so people of a particular nationality can watch their own programs.
Mm.
Fights break out over a TV remote. So no, we said, okay, no problem. All of you can have your own thing. Food is catered as per nationality.
Mm.
Like Indians prefer spicy food. Nepalis not so spicy.
Mm.
Bangladeshis, they like their food to be very diluted, watery.
Mm.
So dal is a constant aspect of friction in a camp.
Mm.
So if a chef is Indian, he will make spicy dal, and
Correct.
the others will fight. So now we have multiple chefs, multiple catering options. Or if somebody prefers, we give them their allowance. They can go out, they can eat whatever they want. All of that is there. Oh, now it's no more like the olden times when it was unregulated. Now everything is regulated, everything is standardized, and that it's okay now. It's not.
And I
like-
think because you're a lawyer, this is a good question to ask. Like there is a lot of conversation between regulation and deregulation, right?
Mhm.
When we, I'm just thinking out from a business point of view. From a business point of view, they would prefer deregulation, right?
Mhm.
Because things become cheaper.
Yeah.
It's much easier to operate. Profit margins increase, but there is also problem with deregulation where you have like violations, ethics violations, so many violations. Where would somebody who knows the law draw the line on where regulation should be there and where it should be deregulated?
Okay. See, as I said, 3.33 square meters per person
Mm.
is the minimum standard.
Mm.
If I want, I can give them 10. I can give them 20. I can put 2 people in a studio apartment. There are companies who do that in UAE,
Mm.
who are very, very focused on staff welfare. They accommodate 2 people in a studio apartment. So it is good that the government regulates the minimum parameters and give us the option to do whatever we want over and above that. That's what I believe.
Okay.
Like very recently, the India government came out and said all housemaids who come from India have to be given 100 dirhams of etisalat or do vouchers every month to
Okay.
contact their families. This is a beautiful step.
Mm.
Because some of them are at the mercy of their family, at the families which host them,
Correct.
to talk to their families.
Mm.
And when somebody is abroad and the family
Yeah.
has no way to communicate with them, it's a
It's-
panic situation. So at least our government has now stipulated, okay, now this is the minimum. If you want, you can give them a phone with unlimited credit. That's up to you. So it's good to have the minimum standards because it avoids a lot of violations, lot of, I wouldn't say legal violation, even moral violations.
Yeah. Right. That is very common, like
Yeah.
especially with like blue collar labors in general.
True.
That moral violation is because I remember like my granddad, I was not there to see it, but I've seen some of my relatives, like one person was a welder,
Mm.
right? He was
Mhm.
welding, he was in Sonapur, and I remember seeing those cases, right? Like it's all bunch of people like stacked together, one on top of each other. I wouldn't say it's an eye-opening moment because we went there regularly and everything, but it was kind of like, how do people live like this sort of situation, right? Like, and that's probably coming from the fact that I lived in a nice 2-bedroom apartment,
Yeah.
I have my own room, everything, and it's just a complete mirror image to see people actually survive that. Why do you think people would, at least back then, right? Why would people put up with that, come here instead of being in their home country?
Money.
As simple as that, right?
Very simple. Okay, I have heard this from my father that at that time the most beautiful girls used to marry the people who were working in the Gulf.
Mm.
Because they come, they work for a few years, there's a big house being built in India, they have cars, they buy things without negotiating,
Mm.
and even they get the most beautiful girls. So he said it was a big headache for us because we wouldn't get a good girl.
Mm.
So that is why there was a huge migration, especially from South India.
Mm.
At that point of time, they used to come and they used to work in all these huge, harshly bad situations. But now it's not like that anymore. And even, okay, it's not just UAE. Media loves to play certain
Countries as, yeah.
stereotypes.
Yeah.
Like, for example, they say all blondes are dumb.
Mm.
I know some blondes who are super intelligent.
Yeah.
And if you talk to the Westerners, they still believe we have snake charmers on our streets. I haven't seen a snake charmer in India for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I have taken some Westerners to India, and when they reach our cities, they're like, wow, this is not what we had in our mind. We are not, we are much bigger than Slumdog Millionaire.
Correct. Yeah.
And, so that is our stereotype. They believe that all Chinese are stingy and loud. I know some perfectly sophisticated Chinese people.
Yeah.
And Japanese are workaholics. I have seen Japanese people drinking and sleeping on the side of the street. So this stereotype
That
don't
generalization
apply.
becomes a problem.
I know one company. I know a CEO who's a good friend of mine who will not hire a Sri Lankan because he believes that all Sri Lankans are alcoholics. And I said, this
Okay.
is unjust. This is unfair. Don't generalize a country.
Mm.
But here we have 140 nationalities in the city. So it takes a lot of understanding for us to exist harmoniously. And the government has created regulations so that we do exist harmoniously.
Mm.
If there is an issue between two countries, it doesn't have to reflect here.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of regulation is required when it is so multi-ethnic.
Correct. And that also leads me to this question, right? Like, sorry, you mentioned you were hiring engineers and things. What is the scope of work for engineers in Dubai? Because a lot of people I've seen, like my relatives, they all do engineering. Like it's a very common thing, right? Everybody in India does engineering. I've recently read that, like in Tamil Nadu at least, there is more engineering schools than engineering students who are willing. So they're giving like huge grants and everything to bring people.
It's not just Tamil Nadu. Now during the 2000, there was an explosion in the number of medical colleges and engineering colleges, and especially engineering colleges.
Correct.
So we have engineering colleges which are shutting down because there are no students to study there. So we produce this huge number of engineers en masse, and they don't find job in India. They end up in the call centers for 9,000, 10,000 rupees per month. They actually, one guy I was recruiting, when I was recruiting, I rejected him, and he thought it was because I did not accept his salary demand.
Okay.
So he said, sir, give me 5,000 also, I will come. 5,000 rupees. And I told him that this is really a shame because you have a certificate from a university that says you have a first class degree in electrical engineering. He said, no, I just want to survive.
Fair. Yeah.
So, when the market is opened, when there is a supply that outweighs demand by 10 times,
the price will
drop.
Yeah.
And if you're asking me about the scope of engineers, UAE has a huge scope for engineers because we are constantly constructing, and whatever is constructed need to be maintained.
Correct.
And so they can come here, they can join a company, they can grow up the ranks, or they can specialize in a niche. Like for example, if you look at the number of chiller specialists,
okay,
it's very, very minimal, and they demand a higher salary. If you look at people who are specialized in, let's say, VRF systems, very minimal. So especially if I am talking from facility management point of view, there are certain niches which carry a premium. Like if you look at IT, we use systems called CAFM, Computer Assisted Facility Management.
Okay.
if you look at people who are specialists in CAFM, they're only a handful, and they're all being headhunted by the competitors. One guy will work in one company for 2 3 years, then you will get headhunted by the next one. Salary will jump.
And we don't see that in India, right? Like,
Yeah.
because in India, everybody chooses course on what the neighbor's doing.
True.
He's doing mechanical, he's
Yeah.
doing mechatronics, we should take that sort of. Nobody looks at the gap in the market. Hey, if I'm considering working in Dubai, or if I'm considering working in Saudi, or if I'm considering going to UK or US,
Yeah.
what is the gap in the market? And maybe I should specialize in that particular niche.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, for example, I was contacted by one of the prominent oil companies, HR department, saying that can we get petroleum engineers, people who are specialists in laying petroleum pipelines,
Okay.
and they were ready to pay salaries in 7 figures
Okay.
annually.
Mm.
But this is a huge demand. They wanted a particular skill set.
Mm.
They said, can you find these people from India? But we couldn't, because that specialization doesn't exist. There are only a handful of people. They are already in Aramco, or they're in ADNOC, or they're in ENOC, or they are in BP, or wherever.
Mm.
So if our universities and our business schools and our engineering schools design courses to fit these niches, before they complete their degree, somebody will be headhunting them.
Correct.
That's what we
Yeah,
should
because
do.
you'll know which university in India is teaching. It makes
We go there, and we
hiring
recruit.
process also very
Exactly.
easier.
Like, I am in the business of maintaining stuff.
Mm.
For example, I have a hospital, I have a mall, I have a school. So I need maintenance engineers. I don't need a construction guy. I
Correct.
need somebody who can maintain it in the most efficient way, so that it reduces break times, down times, and maintenance costs. There are very few people who are specialized in this. So my option is either to take a fresher, train him for 3 to 6 months, and make him understand what it is, or to hire from the competition at a higher price.
Correct. And that is why, like, I feel like I've been to a couple of these events and things where there are CEOs and founders, or startup founders also, generally. All of them have this criticism that, the school doesn't teach enough, the university doesn't teach enough. And the problem is that the schools and universities are kind of built in a way to teach theories. They're built in a way to teach the same theory that they've been teaching for years and years and years, and nobody adapts to what the gap in the market is, what the niche, and and it's not a criticism of just the Indian system.
Yeah,
Just a global problem.
It is. Because when I went to Philippines to recruit, I saw the same thing.
Mm.
Very good in theory, but not exactly what the market wants.
Correct.
I'll tell you one thing. I could be absolutely foolish to say this. Till today, I don't know why we should learn trigonometry.
Yeah, no, trust me.
I asked this to my professor. I said, where am I going to use sine and cos and tan?
Correct.
I couldn't get a straight answer. He said, okay, if you want to know the height of a street pole, you can do that. I said,
Yeah, but why would I want-
why? Or a mountain, for that matter. No
Yeah.
problem. I don't want that.
Right.
So,
It's not like that too with technology at our scale, right? You point your phone on a pole,
Yeah.
and if you realistically want to find it, it's a pole at the end of the day. You can always use a tape measure,
measure it.
right? These are not like theoretical concepts, which is what, like, okay, I would understand, like, if you were in engineering, like hard engineering, I would understand that why this is required. Me, somebody who wanted to do accounting and like do finance and all these sort of things, it's like, even
Exactly.
even if I see computer science, for example, there is very marginal uses for trigonometry. Like, it is one of the, and to put it in like the most decisive year, like at least in Indian syllabus, they put it grade 10.
Grade 10.
They put it in the most decisive year where everything is like your career path depends on that one year,
Exactly.
and they put it in that 1 year to completely ruin
Somebody's life.
Yeah.
And when I was in my pre-degree, I asked my professor, who's a lovely man, I said, I know the formula for acceleration due to gravity. Why should I know the derivation? Somebody has done it in the past. He has derived this formula.
Yeah.
He has done all this genius work back then. I just need to know the formula.
Yeah.
Why should I know 12 steps of derivation?
Yeah.
But he said, no, this is the syllabus. Study it.
Yeah, even when they taught us trigonometry, the math teacher was there. Of all the math teacher, I think I've had like the worst math teacher when I was in 8th grade. But after that, all my math teachers were pretty good. I was just like that 1 year of bad math teacher completely ruined my interest in math. So by the time even the teachers were good, like I couldn't catch up with it. And I remember like asking my math teacher, and he was like, listen, this is how you do this equal to this. This is the steps, 12 steps.
Yeah.
You just memorize and go in. You
Mhm.
don't worry about why this, why this.
Mm.
Just memorize it and go on. And I saw that like 10th grade, I memorized, went in, wrote the exam. Okay. Then I went into 11th and 12th where I took, like, after I quit
Hmm.
PCB, I took up commerce and computer.
Yeah.
Computer science, I saw the same thing. Like,
Mm.
my dad's from IT side, I have families from a little IT side, so I
Mhm.
always had the interest for IT.
Yeah.
So I knew coding, and all these are self-taught. So when I went in, like, the course syllabus was very simple, like Python and all these things, and they will write this code, write that code. And 11th was like, just went like that, nobody cared
Okay.
about you, everything was relaxed. 12th grade, before board exam, there were a couple of students struggling on how do I do this, how do I do this, how do I write
Yeah.
that code for
Code.
this. And the problem is we have to write code on a piece of paper. This B, the problem is the solution that the teachers came up with at that time for the students who couldn't figure it out at the end of the day is like, listen, of all the past papers, there are around 50 or 100 questions repeated.
Yeah.
These are the answers for that 100 questions. You
Memorizing,
memorize it.
memorize it.
That's it.
Okay, how will he survive as a developer tomorrow?
No,
He won't.
he won't. Right? But
And very soon AI will start writing code.
yeah,
So
it's
it's
a pointless endeavor.
exactly.
All this education's great, we understand it, but like, at the end of the day, what's
Not
the
much of
point?
point.
Yeah. So that is the state of it. But anyways, you mentioned you're in facility management, but facility management's not where you always been, right? You've been in healthcare.
It's okay. I am a classic stereotype of somebody learning something and ending up doing something else.
Okay.
I've done so many different things, and that proves okay. Now, before I make myself look like a rolling stone, let me just say in all my with all my 2 decades of work experience, I say management is industry agnostic.
Mm.
You learn management, you can manage any industry, and I'm living example of that. I am a lawyer by qualification. My father was in advertising, so I
Okay.
started working with him
Mm.
when I was in college, in high school. So advertising was my first job. I have directed advertisements. I won awards in advertising. And then I was doing my bachelor's in law. I finished it in 2004. Went off to UK, did my master's in IT law. My dissertation was in economic cyber crimes.
Okay.
Did all that, came back, started practicing law for 1 year. I got a job to write IT policies and procedures for Dubai Airport in 2006. I moved to Dubai as a data controller for the Department of Civil Aviation. It was a government department, 7:30 to 2:30.
Mm.
And writing policies and procedures, especially when the mandate is that you have to match the FAA regulations.
Okay.
So you have a bunch of laws in front of you and you have to just adapt.
Correct.
It doesn't take much of a work of genius.
Mm.
Did all that. Then I moved on to aviation auditing, operations auditing.
Mm.
That's when you basically start walking around, looking at your operations, identify bottlenecks, identify shortfalls, and you report.
Okay.
So for me, that was the starting step of getting into facility management, because an airport is essentially a large building with buildings with planes parked around it.
Correct.
And Dubai Airport is a shopping mall with planes parked around it. So you look at where your queues are. Why is this queue there? Is it because we have too few counters? Like if you look at check-in happens pretty fast.
Hmm.
Then there's a huge queue in security.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Which means there are two things. Either the process takes too long or you have too few counters.
Yeah. Immigration also another example. Yeah.
Exactly. Because and then I had worked on a report which I submitted to my VP.
Mm.
And by then we had migrated from Department of Civil Aviation to Dubai Airports,
Okay.
a private entity, government-owned company.
Mm.
And our CEO was Paul Griffiths, who used to be the managing director of Gatwick Airport.
Okay.
So he came in with a bunch of ideas and he started implementing. We opened Terminal 3 Concourse 2, which was the largest terminal at that time.
Mm.
Exciting stuff was happening around. And I had submitted this report with my VP. And in one of our meetings, the CEO told my VP that you should be doing more stuff on operations and lesser stuff on financial audits, because financial audits are anyway happening.
Mm.
He said, no, we have this beautiful report sitting with us. And it was shared with our CEO. And 2 days later, I was summoned by the CEO. He said, in the room, we had another wonderful gentleman called Chris Garton, who was the senior vice president of operations. And they had discussed this report and they said, you have some very important, very key insights in there. Why don't we start fixing these problems? I said, I'm an auditor. My job is to point out that there's a problem, not to fix it. In fact, I have no authority to fix it. They said, no, we will create a new department. Anyway, there's a discussion going on in that direction. And you start looking at airport service performance.
Okay.
So that department was created in 2009. And I got into fixing stuff, monitoring, measuring, reporting. And things started working out. Our people, we had cooperation from all the entities, the airport police, immigration, customs, everybody was on the same table. We were working towards getting more friendly, more efficient, not throw passports at people. So we are becoming more friendly, more. And with the senior management who was looking at airports like Singapore Changi and Incheon, so there was a benchmarking done, and we were all encouraged to go see where things are done differently, how things are done better. And it was a massive shift from 2009 till 2012. And I was heading a project which is one of its kind in the world. We started monitoring and measuring all queue times from parking to boarding gate and back.
Okay.
There was no system like that in the world.
Hmm.
And Dubai being Dubai, when I told them there is nothing like this in the world, I was
Yeah,
told,
yeah.
let's do it then. So we started getting technology amalgamators, and we put up the solution. And I could tell you that at this particular time, there was a dashboard in front of my office that said the average queuing time in Terminal 1 is 3 minutes
Hmm.
for immigration. So we knocked it down to that level, and we signed SLAs that at the immigration desk there will be a processing time of not more than 90 seconds.
Okay.
So SLA started getting signed. So very lot of exciting stuff was happening. And 2012, I resigned and I moved back to India because of a family reason. My father had a stroke,
Hmm.
and my brother was still in college. So I felt that my presence was required there. So I moved back to India for a couple of years. 2014, I moved back. I joined this company called Electrolux
Hmm.
a couple of years later. And Electrolux is a big Swedish brand.
Yep.
And they manufacture a lot of stuff, and they had a facility management division which was delivering facility management across many countries. And in Middle East was they decided to let go of this, and UAE was the only country which was still doing this under the same brand.
Okay.
So I joined them as their first non-Swedish CEO in
Okay.
2006, because the board realized that most of the clients are Indian,
Hmm.
and all the workforce speaks only Hindi.
Hmm.
So
it was
obviously an Indian was the preferred choice. We had very blue chip clientele, including all the Carrefour hypermarkets, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Higher College of Technology, Abu Dhabi University, Dubai University. It was a very exciting bouquet of clients, and we were thinking about what to do better. So we started introducing sustainable chemicals. That time it was new. It was
Hmm.
something nobody was talking
this
about.
is we're talking
16.
2016. Okay.
Bleach and Clorox was standard.
Hmm.
So we started taking it out, talking to a Canadian company, a German company, trying it out. And slowly clients also started getting that thing of, okay, being environmentally sustainable, being more, reducing paper consumption. Tissue consumption in one of my sites in Dubai was 600 kilos in a month.
Oh, okay.
I said, you consume more than half a ton. So the first thing is to go to the client and say, okay, you are paying me. I'm quite happy with that. But you are doing this, and this is really bad for the environment.
Hmm.
So they started telling their people. And one of our clients in Dubai, he had a large workforce, more than 3,000 people in Dubai. So we said, okay, every day the plastic waste you generate is huge, and large percentage of that is water bottles. So when I sat with the CEO, who was a 75-year-old man, and I told him this, he said, okay, then let's give them all water bottles.
Okay.
So 3,000 water bottles were ordered
Hmm.
and distributed, and we had water fountains installed across the facility. So they would come and fill up the bottles and go. So this reduced the
Massive chunk, right?
massive,
Yeah.
massive. So we started engaging with the clients like this, and it was a very exciting journey. I was there till 2019. And 2019, I moved on to be the group facility director for VPS Healthcare.
Okay.
Because I had done aviation.
Aviation.
So then to hardcore facility management.
Mm.
Then I said, okay, let me move on to healthcare. And when I joined them as group facility director, I walked in with this chip on my shoulder that, okay, I've done this for more than a decade. I've handled all this VVIP clients. and then I had to unlearn all of what I did and start from zero, because in the hospital, facility management has an entirely different meaning,
Yeah, because there's different types of.
different standards,
Yeah.
extremely different standards, and they talk in a language specifically designed so that the others don't know what they're talking about. The first day, the nursing director of the group, she called me up. She said, "Sir, we are having a disinfection issue in the LDR." I said, "Okay, very nice. I will look into it." I noted down LDR, came back to my office and Googled it. I said, "Okay, this is a labor room. Why do they have to call it an LDR?" So like this, every day I was thrown at
New
read
terms.
new things. So I started writing it down. And after 1 month, I decided Google will not be help enough. So I went and enrolled myself for a healthcare certification from Yale
Okay.
in healthcare management.
Mm.
So I started like studying this in a structured way from Yale.
Mm.
Spent some money on it, but it was good money spent.
Mm.
Every day it's like going back to university, because I had a full-time job. So I had to come back, take a shower, have my dinner, and then open the laptop and sit and do my assignments.
Correct.
That was good. It was a good experience. So one of the motives to move from the service provider side to the client side was that I will have a more relaxed schedule. My son was growing up,
Mm.
wanted to spend more time. So this is 2019 October, and come 2021 January, 2020 January, and we have Corona.
Yeah.
And being the facility director of one of the largest healthcare groups in the country, literally I had to live in the hospital, so that I would not come back and infect my family.
Correct.
So we had set up a bedroom in the hospital. I would come in the evening, change from my suit. Then we stopped using suits altogether. We were all wearing scrubs and t-shirts and all that. And scrubbing down was like going into surgery.
Mm.
You will literally bathe yourself in disinfectant and then sanitizer, because you are walking around in a facility which has more than 400 corona patients.
Correct. Okay.
So that was a very exciting period. I don't think any of us will see such a thing ever in our lives.
Hopefully
again.
not, yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
unless somebody is stupid enough to create another virus and let it out.
Yeah.
So, and so that was good. We commissioned Burjil Medical City, which is one of the largest oncology hospitals in the
Yeah.
country. So I was there during all of that. And 2022, I joined Alois Group,
Mm.
which is our group right now, and it's a 52-year-old group, and I am heading the facility management company called Vanguard Facility Management. We are a TFM company, which means we do everything in facility management, starting from cleaning to security, landscaping, pest control, to engineering services. We service chillers, we do elevator maintenance, CCTV, and even specialized services like your energy management systems. We do consult on energy saving buildings. Currently, we are getting into marine facility managements.
Mm.
So we are looking at niches where we can go in and get specialized.
Mm.
So we are in talks with a couple of the large port operators to bring in robots to start cleaning ships.
Mm.
So instead of humans exposing themselves to harmful chemicals and producing harmful sludge, so we are looking at a very environmentally friendly way of doing it. We are talking to a company called Kiel in Germany, who is more than 100 years old and who manufacture completely environmentally friendly cleaning agents.
Okay.
No chemicals.
Is it the KHEIL?
Yeah, KIEHL,
Okay.
Kiel.
Okay.
It's a fourth generation company. The only thing they do is to manufacture these kind of reagents.
Mm.
It's not a chemical. It's very safe. So imagine a school. We use chemicals to clean the floor. A kid might sit and touch the floor, and
Yeah.
he will put that same finger in his mouth
Immediately. Yeah.
immediately. I had a client where we had a near miss. One kid mistook an APC, an all-purpose cleaner, for orange juice because it was orange in color. He ran and took the bottle just because a cleaner was nearby. She stopped him. So introducing these chemicals into those environments is inherently dangerous. So we are now actively advising all our clients to switch to environmentally friendly stuff. There are incentives from the government to do that.
Mm.
We just now we are talking to a government entity in Russell Khaimah, and we are encouraging them to switch to a lot of new things to do, like switching off having sensors to monitor power consumption versus occupancy and all that. And the market is receptive.
Yeah, I think like everybody's also moving towards that. Like we are
Yeah.
all generally being more educated about these things, and everybody's moving things. And like I remember, like my dad's company, he works in Emirates Global Aluminum, and they have SLAs on sustainability. What
Yeah.
is the track down? Now, I can't argue how much is effective in the long term, but it is good first step, right? Like
Yeah.
I would think it's the first step to a much bigger.
Now there are serious conversations. Before a tender is awarded, they ask you what are your sustainability initiatives. So somebody started talking about it, and that's a
Yeah.
good sign.
Yeah. Before we wouldn't have had that
No.
chat at all.
Okay, I'll tell you. In 20, not very long past, 2016 or 2017, when we were negotiating facility management contracts, we will be talking to a man in the procurement departments or in the finance department, and he will say, "Okay, what is your minimum price?"
Hmm.
That is the key question. There'll be no discussion on are we using sustainable chemicals, are we using recyclable tissue, nothing. But now those are serious factors when it comes to being awarded.
Correct.
So it's a very positive step.
And that is something I wanted to push back, not push back, sorry. I want to ask you a little bit more about like this weird up and down of different career paths, like starting from law, advertising, facility management, aviation, healthcare. There's also one thing which I wanted to note as the films, right?
Yeah.
You run a film studio in
Yeah,
India.
I do. That's a passion.
Okay.
uh, my father had a doctorate in Malayalam literature,
Okay.
and my mother had a master's in English literature.
Okay.
So we grew up in a house which had more than 3,000 books.
Hmm.
One of the largest rooms in the house was the library.
Okay.
So a lot of encouragement to read from a very young age. And when I finished my grade 10, we have 2 months of holiday.
Yeah.
My dad told me only one thing. He said, read every day, start reading. And he used to suggest books. Like, for example, if there was an autobiography of the author, he would say, read that first before you read his work. So you know where he's coming from. A lot of important key pointers like that. So reading was a part of growing up. I still read 100 pages every day
Okay.
till today.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things I wouldn't give up, even if I'm traveling, even if I am anywhere. Like, for example, last month I flew to India to attend an engagement in the family, a engagement for a wedding. So when we fly, we have 4 hours. So the option is to connect to the Wi-Fi and watch a movie which you have watched 10 times in the past, or to carry a book.
Correct.
So I carried a book, and by the time we landed in Trivandrum, I had finished the book.
Hmm.
So you have a sense of accomplishment. Now, in my job takes me to travel a lot. So 3 hours to Ras Al Khaimah from Abu Dhabi, it's a good time to read.
But you drive, right?
No,
Like-
I have a driver.
Okay, see that makes a difference because since I started driving, I felt like I read lot less because like even though I'm on the road, there is things I'm doing. I can't just open a book and read.
No, for me, this is one thing I've insisted with my employers for the last decade. Because since my job includes a lot of road travel, this one person gives me a lot of comfort. I have time to catch up on emails. I have time to read. I have time to respond to people. I have time to just call up my clients and say, ask them how are things. They like that.
Correct.
Without them having to call and complain, I call them proactively and ask them, okay, how are things? It builds a relationship.
Correct.
So this time on the road is actually very productive for me. I don't sleep during the day. So that 3 hours gives me a lot of time. And even time to just call my mom and ask her what she had for lunch. So that distance is much less. It feels that I'm still around. So for me, that 3,000 dirhams spent on a driver is well worth it. So now I have been telling all my employees, even when I joined here in Alawais Group, I report to our chairman, Mohammed Alawais. During my interview, I said, this is one thing I really want.
A driver, yeah.
And he said, okay, but why? And I explained this. He said, yes, actually, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Especially parking.
Yeah.
Parking is the.
Yeah.
I've been late to a couple of things purely because of parking. Right, like everything I go on time 10-15 minutes before time and then waste 10-15 minutes finding
Looking
parking.
for parking. Yeah.
If you're at like a C-level executive, it's a very, you can't be late to things, right?
Because I meet important people. I cannot, and some of them I cannot make them wait.
Yeah, correct.
And rather than parking 1 kilometer away and walking in this heat for half an hour and walking into a meeting room smelly, this is much better option.
Yeah, it's a very small premium.
It's 100 dirhams per day. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's a very small premium for the convenience it
Exactly.
yields. This is like a math that I can't see a lot of people doing, right? Like I was recently in Kerala, right? Like in Kumili.
Okay.
Kumili, nice, beautiful place. It's a homestay. Like the stay was nice, and these guys they run like a homestay,
Hmm,
right? Like
hmm.
a 4 floors homestay. Like you open the door, jungle right outside. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
view, everything there. They clean all their linen. They clean all their all the clothes, their clothes, everything in the same washing machine. What we saw was that, like, for the amount they charged us for the room and how many rooms they have, if they spend 2 days rent, they could have bought a new
A new
washing
washing
machine.
machine. Yeah.
But they don't do that accounting at all. They just can't do that accounting. Hey, 45 minutes of my time has a value.
Yeah.
Is a
Somebody being employed full time to do that.
correct.
Suboptimal results. Yeah.
Right, it's not just that. Like, that lady who's doing this full time could be utilized somewhere
For
else, right?
something else. Yeah.
And we see that as a problem because, like, if they thought about like scale, if they thought about time efficiency, they could have been compete, like, for the property they have
Hmm.
and how much that property
Yeah.
is making, they could have been competing with the biggest hotel chains in that area. And
This is exactly why we see some organizations growing and some others being
just
where they
stagnant.
are.
Yeah,
Stagnant. And stagnancy does not lead to a long life.
correct. But the other alternate view, right? Like, this was my view, and my dad's view was that, listen, they're happy, they're content, they don't want more. They just
Contentment is a bad thing in business. That's what I say. I still have a colleague who was working with me from 2016. And one time we went to Sharjah to sign a big government contract,
okay.
a big one. It is running into a few dozen millions per year. So we signed the contract with the chairman of the entity. We shook hands, posed for the photo. Everything is good. And we got into the car. And when we were coming back, we just passed Sharjah airport. And I told her, this is our next one on the target. We should target this contract. And she asked me, she said, boss, how much is enough for you? I said, no, I invented the concept of wanting more.
Yeah,
The moment you stop wanting more,
it's stagnant, right? Like,
Yeah.
a flat line.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
and this country is the biggest testament to being successful by wanting more.
correct.
The rulers have all had that great vision to do something bigger, better.
Correct.
This Dubai I moved into in 2006, and what it is today, there is no
Yeah,
comparison.
I was born here 2000. Like, I can see, like, I was there day zero.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember, like, what used to be Dubai, what is Dubai Mall today, used to be like the shooting range, right? Right? It was like it was like a place that was outside the city,
Yeah.
and they kept their, like,
The
shooting range there.
Yeah.
Like, now it's like the central part of Dubai.
Dubai,
Like,
yeah.
everybody
Downtown.
knows that is Dubai for
Yeah.
them, not Karama, not these
Not
places.
there. Yeah.
Right? So a lot has changed, and that is not from the fact that, hey, this is enough, sort of.
And Abu Dhabi,
Hmm.
if you now, the moment you enter Yas Island, you are in a totally different world.
Yeah,
Yas Island, if you look at it, Ferrari world, Yas Water world, Warner Brothers,
yeah, the Formula One track.
Formula One. And if you look at the dining options, you have all the world class restaurants in Yas Bay. Yas Marina is, if you look at the yachts which are in Yas Marina, you'll think you are in Monaco. So each side, if you go to Ras Al Khaimah, there's a boom.
Correct. Yeah.
I was talking to one of the senior people in Rock Properties. They said that they have 15,000 housing units as of today, and in another 24 months, it'll increase to 45,000. Such a monumental growth. So the whole country is in a state of boom, and the good part is the boom has been there for decades.
Yeah, it hasn't, that cycle hasn't stopped yet. Yeah.
Because it's not them doing something and stopping there.
Correct.
It's them after the next big thing.
Correct.
So it's I believe that this is a prerequisite for a business executive. We should always want more.
Now, coming from, like, as a business executive, it makes sense, but as an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 29-year-old, how would I approach wanting more? Where do you say, like, where do you say wanting more is too much in personal life?
I would say it's never a bad thing, because when I joined Dubai Airport in 2006, I was 24 years old.
Okay.
I joined at a salary of 6,500 dirhams. I wanted more. I had a used Ford at that time, and I wanted something better. So in 2007, I wrote an internal exam, applied for an internal job, and moved to internal audit. And my salary grew from 6.5 to 11.
Okay. Straight.
And this will not happen from an increment. You will get 500 dirhams or 1,000 dirhams
Correct.
per increment. You need to start acquiring new skills and go for something else too. And then I became a senior auditor in charge of airport operations audit, and my salary became 17,000.
Mm.
And then I went and bought myself my first Mercedes.
Mm.
Okay. And when I was coming out of that showroom, I told my friend who was in the car with me, I said, "This is a C class. Next thing should be an E."
Mm.
So again, he asked me the same question. You barely have the car out of the showroom. So why now? I said, no, no, no. I make a plan. And then when I became head of airport service performance, my salary was around 36,000. So then I went and upgraded my car again.
Mm.
I upgraded to a Jaguar.
Okay.
So this constant upgradation was happening. And this is on my personal side. And, I started in a small apartment, a bigger apartment, a bigger apartment. So is it necessary? I can still live in a studio apartment. But, ultimately at the end of the day, if I collect all this money and build a humongous house in India, where I will not live till maybe I'm 60 or 65,
Yeah.
the house would be dilapidated by then anyway.
Correct.
If you ask me, I would wait till, okay, if I'm, let's say, retiring at 65, I will start building that house at 62 so that I have the technology of that time.
The home is fresh.
Yeah, home is fresh.
Yeah.
I have access to better technology.
Correct.
I don't know, because with all the climatic changes, where it's going to be livable, habitable at that particular point of time. We don't know what will happen 20 years down the line. So we
Correct.
might as well wait.
Even this thing, right? Like even with our home in India, there's like cracks in the wall, all these things because like the humidity
I am in
build-up.
maintenance, so I know how a building will age in the next 20 years.
The
So
humidity build up, so many paints falling
Yeah.
off, chipping off.
we have
It's-
4 months of rain
Mm.
if everything is as per schedule.
Mm.
Now we get more rain,
Mm.
so the water will seep in. There will be tiny cracks here and
Correct,
there.
yeah.
Water will seep in. It will bring the plastering out.
Yeah.
It will create bubbles in the paint.
So basically, by the time we go and live there full
You
time,
need to invest a whole lot of money to
fix it back
fix it
on.
again.
Yeah, which is
And again, the lights will change. The
lights.
technology- yeah.
It's 10 years lights have already like some of our
Exactly.
chandeliers are broken, some of them are out of bulbs, this thing. That basic day-to-day maintenance is not done
Not-
because nobody needs
Nobody
it.
needs it. Nobody is living there.
Yeah.
So rather than us enjoying the luxuries which we can afford,
Yeah.
why collect all the money like an ant collecting grain and then sending it to India and building a massive house?
Yeah, it would have been a different scenario if all of us lived in India. So, for example, my grandfather, he was here,
Hmm.
right? But the family was back in
Yeah.
India, so he had to send in money, there,
Exactly.
right? Which
For the
made
family.
yeah, which made sense, right?
Yeah.
Like for us as a family to live here and keep all our wealth there it's still a problem. Like even if we look at like investments, right?
Hmm.
All of my parents' investments are in India.
India.
Right, like properties, this thing, and day by day this is becoming a problem because that principal agent problem always
Yeah.
seeps in.
Absentee landlordism is always a problem.
Yeah, right. And we have no idea what the maintenance is being done. We have no idea how the rent is being collected. There is like various new taxes every few days.
Yeah.
Right, the tax is going up, down, this tax, that tax, GST, SGST.
I'll tell you something. When we learn jurisprudence, we learn ignorantia juris non excusat. Ignorance of law is not an excuse.
Mm,
So let's say tomorrow our government passes a new law.
correct.
Sitting here running in our rat race, we don't read about it. We don't know. And 6 months down the line, you are in violation.
Mm,
Somebody wants to
correct.
break down a part of your house.
Yeah, we had that situation
Yeah.
actually. We
So-
had that situation. We were unaware when we bought a particular property that there was going to be a bridge construction,
Okay.
and we didn't know that. We bought the
Mhm.
property, we built everything, we bought the land, built the building, everything, and 2 years later they're like, "Listen, we are closing the road because we have to build the bridge."
Yeah.
And we're like, "What bridge? We are paying somebody to."
Yeah.
We are paying somebody to tell us about this information.
mm.
We paid a broker the commission to tell us this information before we bought the property.
Mhm.
Nobody told us any of these
Yeah.
things, and now there's a bridge. So because of that, we had to chop off like thankfully it's not too much, but like a slice of it.
The side of the building.
But the building's not like that. Building has pillars, right?
Yeah.
Like we can just like nicely.
Yeah, we
like,
cannot cut it off like that.
Cut it off like that and put it like Lego pieces,
Yeah.
right? Like we have to cut it off, so we have to create new pillars,
Hmm.
which just if we just waited for a few years or if we didn't buy that properly, this thing, right? So that is a massive problem that I see in my parents, right?
Hmm.
Like we are running all this rat race, we're running this, working day and night, and we have no access to the properties we own. We
True.
have no access to the things we
True.
have, and it's just
I wouldn't do that because again, like I said, I would rather have, if you look at economics theory, marginal utility. I would rather have marginal utility of my income rather than waste it for a house which I might not live for the next 20 years in.
Correct, right? Like I would live that, like for people who don't understand marginal utility, basically if I have 20 dirhams today, I would rather spend that 20 dirhams
And enjoy
it rather than making it 1,000 dirhams and sending it somewhere in the hopes of enjoying it some
it
other day.
someday.
Yeah.
By the time we go there, is it 1,000 dirhams having the same value?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah. All right. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure
Thank
having
you.
a chat with you. All right.